Good afternoon. Well, I don't know to whom I say good afternoon. I don't see you, but you can see me, and I will use this opportunity to exchange with you some thoughts about the world, as this is organized by the Library of Foreign Languages. I mean the word, not the word, the part of a sentence, but the word, the act of talking. The first question would be if there is an original word. We all speak in hundreds or thousands of different languages, and many scientists or philologists have asked themselves, was there at the origin an original word, an original language which everybody spoke? And if you compare the various languages, you see there are almost no common words between them. The only thing that men in all countries and in all language express in the same way are the basic emotions of life: pain, joy, screams. But as soon as the process of talking, of using words starts, there is absolutely no common ground. And why do we talk? What does it mean to talk? There are basically two theories. The first was basically the one of Plato, the Greek philosopher, was that the thought, the act of thinking, is the connection between the reality, the world, and the word, the act of talking. It's quite simple. I see this glass, this is the reality. I think that this is a glass, and I say there is a glass in front of me. This is what probably the majority of us think, that by talking we only describe the reality around us. But there are flaws. Many ones. The first, the language is not univocal. There might be many meanings in a word. The only univocal language is the mathematical language. The reality is univocal, but so is not the language. The second is that we experience very often that there are limits in the world. When we are watching a beautiful landscape, where we are overwhelmed with feelings, with love, with pain, with joy, we very often say that we cannot express what we are experiencing. Furthermore, when we talk to somebody. There is always one person who talks and the other person or the other persons who are listening, like we are doing now. So the word is always relative. I might say something, somebody else might say it differently, although we might speak about the same thing in the world around us. And the fourth and the biggest flaw in this theory is that we are not out of the world. We are not watching the world or the reality from outside, because we, human beings, our thinking, our feelings, our emotion, our soul, they are part of the reality as well. So we cannot extract ourselves completely for that reality to give a quiet, distant description of it. So if the language is not purely descriptive, does it mean it is creative? If we go to one of the oldest books in the Bible, we see in the Genesis, it is written that God said, "Let there be light." And you might wonder, why does he say it? He's alone. There is nobody to talk to. Why doesn't the Bible say he wanted to be light? He wanted that there would be light, or he thought that there would be light, or he made the light. No, the Bible says he said, "Let there be light." So the word of God in that case is clearly a creative one. And this theory, this approach of the language is shared by many philosophers, especially the phenomenologues, like Merleau-Ponty, like Husserl, for whom the word is accomplishing, is creating the thinking. When we think, our thoughts might be confused in our brain. But when we start the process of talking, worried by words or worried by writing, we realize, we create our thinking and give it existence. What does it mean? It doesn't mean if I say there is an elephant on Tverskaya Street, that there will be an elephant on Tverskaya Street. Definitely not. I'm not God, and I'm not able to create an elephant just by saying its name. But we see in many circumstances that the words we use change the reality. If we were together in a big room and somebody would scream, "Fire!" something would happen. We might all run towards the exits. If you say to somebody, "I love you," this will have definitely an impact on that person. If a state declares that a person or a group has to be qualified as terrorists, by using the word terrorists, it will have definitely an impact on those people. Probably the consequence would be that their lives might be definitely shortened. And there are many other examples. So what does it mean? Of course, the reality exists whether we talk about it or not. The reality is there. And even if there wouldn't be any human being in the universe, there would still be a universe. But by the word, we own the world. We own it and we make it understandable. The language is symbolic. It puts together. We put together the reality and our thoughts, and these create a new reality, an organized reality, a reality that we human beings can understand. Isn't it telling that the opposite of symbolic is diabolic? The demon divides, the language unites, and the language was, at the origin, the first act of God. So, if by talking, by using the word, we organize the world, we give it a meaning, this will definitely have an impact on our actions. We will act according to it. And it is our actions that will change the world. So yes, in that meaning, the word is an act of creation and it can change the world. Why do we talk then? First, I think we talk in order to transmit something. Every language grew. When you learn your language, you learn it in the family, and then you learn it at school, and in the society, in the country, in the people you are living in. Which means there is an infinity of human experience, and the language, your language, my language, all the languages are the result. They concentrate all these human experience since the dawn of times by all the people who have talked that language until now. Furthermore, we always talk to somebody. Nobody speaks alone, unless he's maybe drunk or unless he's a fool. You always talk to somebody. You might talk to God, you might talk to yourselves, you might talk to people who are not there, like I'm doing now, but you always talk to somebody, which means talking, the word, is always an act of relation between the one who speaks and the one who listens. By talking to somebody, you open yourself to him or to her. You share the intimity of your thoughts with him or her. And that person, the listener, you ask for his answer. You ask for a personal, for a free answer to the words you have said to him or her. So this relation is a relation of friendship. Friendship, the philia of the Greeks, which is the most natural relation that men should have together in a society. So by talking to somebody, we practice friendship to others. That's why it's very important to know to whom you are speaking, which is not the case for me presently, I must confess, in order to adapt what you're going to say to make sure he will understand you well. And if the word is an act of friendship, if the word is always has always to be understood in the context of this relation between the two people, or between the one who talks and the one or the ones who listen, of course there is an obligation. You have to be truthful to this friendship, which means you have to speak the truth. Isaiah chapter 45, the Bible tells us that the Lord speaks the truth and he declares what is right. So there is an obligation of truth. All the sins against the truth, like treason, lies, libel, insult, all these are sins not because of the word itself, but because it offends the relation between the people. If you are a traitor, you are a traitor to somebody. If you lie to somebody. If you insult somebody. So you will never be truthful to this relation, to this obligation of friendship, if you don't respect the truth when you talk to somebody. One might say, what is the truth? The truth is relative, everybody has his truth. Yes and no. Of course, the interpretation can vary. We might have different ways to look at things, and that's why we need the dialogue, and that's why we need to talk. But there is only one truth. Let's get back to that elephant on Tverskaya. If there really is an elephant on Tverskaya, we might disagree or discuss about his whereabouts. Where does he come from? Does he come from the zoo? Does he escaped a transport? Does he come from a circus? All this is open to interpretation. But if somebody says, it's not an elephant, it's a mouse, this is not an interpretation. This is a lie. And I really think we are always capable of calling a lie, even when we are lying ourselves. I certainly lied in my life, but every time I knew I was lying. I might have pretended I was not. I might have said I was just interpreting the reality differently, but I knew very well that I was a bloody liar when I was doing it. So, as a matter of conclusion, just 4 remarks. First, know your language. You never know it well enough. In order to be able to embrace this infinity of human experience in your language, you have to know it as well as possible. Second, know the language of the other, because it's an act of friendship to do a step towards him, and you will as well expand your experience of the human condition. Third, never forget that to speak is always to enter in a relation of friendship with somebody. And finally, this relation of friendship obliges you to speak the truth, and always to speak the truth. Because, as Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, a single word of truth weighs more than the whole world. Одно слово правды весит больше, чем весь мир. Thank you.